It's my pleasure to introduce to you today the Whittemore-Peterson Institute for Neuroimmune Disease that will be on the University of Nevada Medical School campus in Reno, Nevada. It will be housed in an entity called the Center for Molecular Medicine, which houses three different entities. One is the Center for Biomedical Research, which is the university part of the building. The Whittemore-Peterson Institute, which will be 2 floors of space in this building, and the bottom floor will hold the Nevada Cancer Institute. Our integrative mission is to reveal the mechanisms of chronic diseases and developing novel treatment strategies. This was the old picture, and this is the video, which I won't play because it will corrupt everything and I'll have to start over again. So hopefully we can get that glitch tomorrow. It's a wonderful presentation that the university produced to introduce this facility to the public, and we had a wonderful groundbreaking that day. So what are we? We're a comprehensive outpatient medical and translational research center dedicated to patient care, basic research, education, and drug development for a spectrum of neuroimmune diseases. We chose that name partially because we didn't feel that chronic fatigue syndrome at all describes what this disease is about. And we understand that there are neurological implications and immunological implications to this disease. We believe this institute is unique, that it is the first in the world dedicated to neuroimmune diseases, integrating 3 critical areas of need: treatment, research, and education. The Office of Clinical Research will be involved in translational research, and that means that those new findings that we happen upon in our basic research will be translated very quickly into medical realities. We'll be looking at common pathogens and pathways, effective treatments through clinical trials, and discovery of biomarkers of disease. And actually, we've already started that work without the walls right now, but we're in several different places. So we have an office at the university, Office of Clinical Trials and Research up in the incline, and Dr. Peterson's practice seeing patients right now. The physical facilities in the new building will be approximately 15,000 square feet and include patient exam rooms, infusion treatment center, physical therapy, other patient support services such as counseling, nutritional support, and outreach. The Office of Basic Research will engage in the state-of-the-art technologies to understand the pathophysiology of ME/CFS using flow cytometry, and we purchased a flow cytometer actually and have it at the university, and it is working right now. So again, we've already started this work. Cytokine profiling, virus expression profiling, and epigenetic profiling. The research laboratories will be approximately 2,500 square feet of bench laboratory space out of a 100,000 square foot building. So our basic research lab will be small, but it will be connected directly to the much larger facility in the university. Principal investigators will be working side by side, our investigators, with university investigators who come from microbiology and immunology backgrounds. A lot of the work up there is done in cancer. We've been able to teach really quite a few of these researchers what's going on in ME patients, and they're just amazed, and they're so excited to be able to work with us. And we are also coordinating studies with experts from around the world. Our mission is to facilitate and advance patient care, research the pathophysiology of neuroimmune disease, and develop therapeutics, diagnostics, and prevention strategies for this spectrum of diseases. Our focus, neuroimmune disease. And in that, we include ME/CFS, MS, fibromyalgia, autism, and Gulf War illness, because we believe that these diseases all have similarities. Diseases such as these involve complex immune abnormalities affecting the function of both the body and the brain and can result in lifelong disability. So why build an institute? Well, for one, we believe the governmental health agencies have been slow to respond for a number of reasons. And I think whenever we have a new disease, there is always disbelief in the beginning. I think the thinking has been very simplistic, that one pathogen should cause one disease. And I think we also have a tendency to call disease by different names when we don't understand them, such as mental illness or hysteria. There is also a lack of funding. As you know, there's a war going on, and much of our money now is in biodefense, and those people who are there with their funds do not want those funds removed and put into ME. They want to keep them in their areas, and that would be the vested interest. We rely very heavily on big pharmaceuticals for answers, and they're looking for blockbuster drugs. They're not looking for drugs that are going to affect smaller populations. And medical health insurance, the system dictates services. And even in the United States, much like the UK, we still have the gatekeepers, those insurance systems that do not want you to access the medical care. Human suffering and loss to society ought to be enough to encourage research in this area, because ME/CFS is found all over the world. And in the United States, the latest numbers are 1 in 400 people are affected by this disease, which is more common than MS or lung cancer, but as disabling as COPD. We found, Dr. Jason's research found that the highest disability is in the lower socioeconomic groups, and I'm not sure who it was that alluded to that, but obviously that's a lot to do with access to medical care. Only 5 to 10% of sufferers sustain total remission. That came from the CDC's website. And cost to the U.S. in lost earnings, not medical care, not disability, is $9.1 billion annually. For some reason, there are people who would like to marginalize this disease, as they have done in the past with other diseases, such as MS, when they called it hysterical women's disease until they developed an MRI. AIDS called gay man's disease until HIV was discovered, and I believe that chronic fatigue syndrome will be called that until we have the genomic, proteomic, and viral studies completed. Some of the immunological abnormalities in ME/CFS by now are pretty well known. I'll go over them quickly. Increased numbers of activated CD8 T cells, poorly functioning natural killer cells, abnormal RNA cell function, abnormal 2,5-A binding protein, dysregulated pro-inflammatory cytokines. Some of the neuroimaging studies that have been done show abnormalities in cerebral white matter that appear as small lesions, significant reduction in gray matter of the brain, and abnormal cerebral glucose metabolism. Some of the viruses that have been implicated, the infectious agents that may trigger and perpetuate ME/CFS, pathogens that are difficult for the immune system to eliminate or suppress. Some of the herpes viruses include HHV4 or EBV, HHV6A and B, and HHV7. Many other infectious agents have been associated with it, indicating, I think, the depth of the immune dysregulation and perhaps not the pathogenesis of this disease. Unanswered questions. What is the biological cause of ME? Even with all of that research, still cannot pinpoint one cause. Maybe there is not one cause. What medical interventions will treat the underlying cause of disease? Does this disease predispose patients to earlier age of death? Is there an increase in the occurrence of cancer or additional diseases in patients with ME? And what are the greatest causes of death in ME patients? I've seen one research paper on that, and it was pretty well hidden. Dr. Jason's group took a look at 100 patients that had passed away, and they knew that they had ME prior to death. And of those patients died of the same kinds of illnesses as the general population: heart disease, cancer, suicide was a higher rate. But one of the findings in his paper, and no one has come back to prove it or disprove it, those individuals died 25 years younger than others in the population, normal population. So that's a big question to ask. Is this leading to an earlier death? Team building, an Institute for Neuroimmune Disease. And I didn't mean to bring everybody down on that, but I certainly think that that's an important question that needs to be answered. Excuse me. I would say that the first thing you need to do is develop a private foundation with the basic infrastructure. And we were very, very lucky. My husband and I own a business with that infrastructure, and I moved right in and took over in their financial, legal, and political resources, and was able to do fundraising. And we also have some very close friends in public relations. And I use all of those resources. We also have sought out partnerships. We've had to describe our goals and build a business plan, draft legislation for governmental support, and we are seeking matching dollars from private donors. So to build a team in the U.S., you need private donors, in our case, university entities, local government, federal government, other foundation, and consortium of researchers. Private citizens often take the lead as philanthropists, physicians, scientists, and foundation directors. Private donors in the U.S. create a culture of giving. Individuals or family members with personal connection to the illness are often the first to come to the forefront of funding. Family foundations, corporate foundations, and the use of community fundraising events all have helped to bring the dollars to this institute. We have found that the collaboration with others is really the key, that there isn't one organization that can do everything. And we certainly are looking to build that, and we have already started with a diagnostic test for immune cell function, novel markers for NK and T cell dysfunction with Doug Redelman at the University of Nevada School of Medicine and Red Labs, USA. Biomarker development, blood markers of disease, Nevada Cancer Institute and the City of Hope are involved in that. Drug development, we have immune modulating therapies for CFS-ME-associated cancer with Nam Dang, who is at the Nevada Cancer Institute, and Genius Biomed, Henderson, Nevada. Antiviral drug development, we hope to begin that work with the School of Pharmacy at the University of Nevada. So how did all of this begin, you might ask? On September 28, 2004, the Institute was conceived. And that was the day that we just said, this is what has to happen, and no one else is going to do it. So let's put one foot in front of the other and see what happens. On June 2005, our institute received the first governmental grant. That was a $10 million grant to the larger entity. Our part of it was $2.5 million. We're now back before the state legislature. We have an every other year legislative session. I will go before that session the week I get back and ask for another $3.5 million for the building, and we've already been approved for $1 million in operations. In summer of 2006, the Office of Basic Research began its work, supported by the Nevada CFS Foundation, which is now the Neuroimmune Research Foundation, with Dr. Judy Mikovits and 3 interns. The Institute's translational research program combines Dr. Peterson's clinical research and state-of-the-art molecular technologies. And these are our executive staff, our board of directors, our clinical working group, and our scientific working group. I'll give you a chance just to read those names. And I hope that tomorrow I can show you that video, because it is really wonderful when you get a chance to hear the story. Thank you. It's exciting to get letters, so many letters from so many people. And Dr. Peterson would agree. I mean, he's gotten hundreds of letters and has so many people on a waiting list already. And this is another reason for building the Institute. There are just not enough doctors out there. And one of our major goals is to educate physicians. And we've started that by having a seminar series. But I think we'll have to produce some manuals. We'll be having our doctors lecture at the university. and try to bring new doctors, new medical students into the field. But education is a big part of this picture right now. So, how much are we charging?
Will you charge patients?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I know that there'll be some formula that will allow us to break even. It is a nonprofit institute. So we'll have funding for those who have no insurance, funding for those who are on disability, and pay as you go. Some people, hopefully the insurance companies will cover the cost for most.
You feel that will happen in America, they'll cover it? You feel that in America the insurance companies will cover?
I think we have a pretty good situation in the state of Nevada, actually. We've passed a law in 2005, was that 2003, mandating that ME/CFS patients' treatment be paid for by insurance companies. And that is working fairly well. Some of those insurance companies have to be taken to court, but for the most part, they're getting the picture that there's a law out there, and it states that these insurance companies do need to pay to help patients.
I think it's incredibly heartening. I feel a bit like Alice in Wonderland. Here we are, not getting anywhere in this country, and you're standing out there telling us and showing us a photograph of the most incredible building. I don't think we have a building like that in the whole of the UK anyway. I know that Americans always think that we're quaint here in the UK, but can you give us any pointers as to how we might even begin to get where you're going?
That's a very difficult question. I'm really hoping that making this work is going to be the biggest and the best way to show others how to do it. And we'll certainly have something put together. But I think that as the science becomes available, it can't be ignored. And that's our biggest goal, is to make sure that science is good science, that it's presented all over the world, and eventually in your country, I can't see how they can continue to ignore it. And one other thing I would say, we're personally very, very close to Senator Reid in the United States, who is the Senate Majority Leader, and he has always been very supportive of work in ME/CFS. And at some point, I've got to believe that we're going to be able to talk to them and say, boy, they're just not doing too much over there in the UK, and they're struggling. What can you do about it? And I think sometimes reaching across continents is not that a difficult thing to do. So.